The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Everybody has their own story and their own journey to share. Every journey conceals another journey within its lines. The path not taken and the forgotten angle. Listen to the stories from others sharing their triumphs and struggles that led them to where they are today. Welcome to the Journey Within You. And today I am blessed to have my friend, Jessica Phillips. And we're kind of doing this take two. We decided that since I've started doing the recordings on video, why not? Let's do it again. Her podcast is to air today. So we're going to get it recorded and we're going to air it all on the same day. So it's fun. Jessica, I'm letting you in. And I'm just thrilled to have this girl here with me today. Hey, lady.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm so grateful to be here. And I am so grateful to be doing it live.
I know, because I think this makes it more fun where we can see each other and, the response and stuff. And, all platforms don't take live, but that's okay. It'll be on YouTube. So we'll have
Yep.
it going in several different areas. So, Jessica, I'm having you on here because what? The journey within you. And I want you to share your story because I know if it impacts one, then we've done our job in sharing that story. So take it
Yeah.
away.
Oh, I just have to thank you again for the opportunity, Laura. It means the world to me. And I pray that, like you said, that God will use our time together to bless others, many
Mhm.
other people. The interesting thing about our journey is that it's always unfolding. My
Yes.
journey that I'm going to share today is going to look different next year. It's going to look different by the end of the day,
Yeah.
even. Um, and really part of my journey is that I found that there's magic in it. And it took me a long time to find that. But when we can truly embrace our journey and fall in love with the process of unbecoming, magic happens there.
Mhm.
And so within the last 5 to 10 years, that's kind of what I'm leaning into. But I just want to share a little bit of the journey to get to that point.
Yeah.
I believe that as we grow up, we fall into agreement with certain beliefs, rituals, processes as a product of the environment that we were raised in. And that part of our journey is to figure out which ones we really are in agreement with, and which ones do serve us, and which ones were never ours to carry in the first place. So I think we have to get a little uncomfortable in our
Mhm.
journey. I know
Mhm.
I have, but I do believe that God allows that to happen by placing the certain desires and hopes and dreams inside each and every one of us. I'm sure this podcast was in some way, shape, or form a dream of yours that God
Ye
planted when you were born,
Yes. Yes.
and there was a journey to get here,
Right.
right?
A big journey that
Yes,
had a pause
and
in it for a little while, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing."
yeah, you have to unpack things. You have to unbecome. You have to get rid of the layers that don't
Mm.
belong to you,
Mhm.
to let those things come to fruition. And so, um, for me, I was born a dreamer. I've always
Mhm.
been a dreamer. All my report cards said social butterfly, needs to concentrate more. Um, a charmer. I was a lover of people from the very beginning, and just a believer for as long as I can remember. I just wanted people to feel good.
Mhm.
I wanted them to feel cared for and wanted. I wanted them to leave my presence feeling like someone was in their corner, that they were loved and seen and beautiful. And I wanted that because I didn't have that.
Mm.
I was born into a very loving family. I certainly was loved and cared for, but I was born the youngest by far to a family of five. The
Mm.
closest sibling to me was my brother. He's 7 years older than me. So I was the, wait a minute, you're what?
Yeah.
child
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
many people have. And I was born into a family of entrepreneurs. And at the time of my birth, my father's family business that my grandfather had started burnt to the ground that same
Mm.
year.
Mm.
My grandmother was also diagnosed with scleroderma, and they told my grandfather that they needed to take her to Puerto Rico for the winters to for her health.
Yeah.
So so my grandfather came to my father, who's the oldest of his family, and said, "You have to run this business."
Wow. Wow.
And so, um, to say that I was born into a house of stress is an understatement.
Mm.
Um, And so here comes this vibrant, sassy, talkative Jessica who had an uncanny way of knowing people. Like I just have always had an uncanny way of connecting with people and knowing
Mhm.
them. And I just had a wisdom. I think I was an old soul is what people would
Mhm.
call it, right? And so here I come into the mix, and quite honestly, we just didn't mix. We didn't
Mm.
mix.
Yeah.
um, my father was raised by a not so nice grandfather, and he didn't ever learn the tools to parent in a different way.
Mm.
So, um, when my dad came home, I went to my room. That was my safe place.
Right.
And just he was just stern. He was stern. He expected greatness. And it was for someone who was tender and a dreamer and a um, just more out of the box person, it was a very difficult navigation. So I wanted affection. I wanted to be heard. My love language was to listen to me, and he
Mhm.
hated it when people talked a lot.
Mm.
For me, it was like I was barely to be seen, and for certain not heard.
Right.
um, I,
Right.
I I heard over and over again that I talked too much, was too emotional, didn't know anything. Wasn't but
Mhm.
God, and one thing I want people to see in this journey is that God is always there.
Mm.
And certainly we don't have time on just one podcast to unpack all of his greatness, but
Yeah.
um, when you look back on your journey, I hope that everyone sees the handprints of God and the people he places in your life, because
Mhm.
I think that God has a fantastic plan for everyone's life, um, and that but I think I was born open to that from a
Mhm.
very young age. I was
Mhm.
born to that, born like I was open to that,
Mhm.
um, and I think that God put me in this family at this time to be the one to break the generational strongholds, because we truly were meant to do amazing things.
Mhm.
Um, and when I look back over my life, I see so many of his angels. And one of them is my step grandmother. Her name was Thelma. So my
Mm.
grandma did end up passing away of scleroderma when I was young. And then my grandfather remarried. And this woman was an angel on earth.
Mm.
And she led me to the Lord at a young age, maybe 12, 13.
Mhm.
Um, and I have always felt the Holy Spirit just in me. I knew God was always with me, and that He loved me.
Mhm.
Without that, I'm not quite sure what my journey would look like, because
Right.
childhood was hard for me. It was hard. I didn't fit in. My oldest sibling, she was out of the house, and that's another podcast. But um, so I have three sisters and a brother. So the second oldest sister, we lived together. So the
Mhm.
four of us were raised together. My oldest sister was not raised in our house, but
Mm.
my oldest sister living with us didn't like me.
Mm.
She was, 11, 12 years old, I guess, when I was born, and she did not like
No.
me. And my brother, he was a boy. He didn't really care
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
younger
He's like,
sisters.
whatever, another sister.
Yes, but I did have one sister, Laura, and she was my godson. But aside from that, it was hard for me. And so, because of the environment I grew up in, I stopped sharing my truth.
Mm.
And it has been very difficult to open up that throat and speak my
Yeah.
truth as
Yeah.
life has taken, me through these years.
Mhm.
But I did stop sharing it, and I swallowed the hard things that were happening in my life, and I blamed myself. I thought it was me and I was bad. And in the course of time, when I was younger, I had two experiences with two different family members who sexually abused me.
Mm.
I never said a word. I
Mm.
never said a word until I was married for about close to 15 years, 10 to 15
Mm.
years to my husband. I never said a word to anybody. I felt dirty, ashamed, and I had no voice. And
Alright.
that experience has been the biggest blessing, because I want people to have a voice in the worst way.
Mhm.
And I want to help people break those, I do feel like there's generational strongholds. I know people call them
Mhm.
curses or whatever you want to call them, but there's just
Right.
generational patterns, that we just fall in agreement with, that this is how things are. And
Mhm.
children should be seen and not heard, and all these things.
Mhm.
And I
Just
think in order
tuck it down in there and keep it in there, don't say a word.
because you
Yep.
might offend somebody.
Right.
Someone might not like the way they feel when you speak your truth.
Mhm.
And and I'm here to tell you it's okay.
Yeah,
It
it
is
is.
okay
Yep.
to speak your truth. And it took me 50 years
To tell
to
'em.
mhm, to come
Mhm.
to that realization. But if we don't speak our truth, then how can we possibly move into our best selves and the self the person that God, this amazing life that God had intended for you? We weren't meant to carry that. God's yoke is light. He says, "Come to me
Mhm.
because my yoke is light," right?
Mhm.
And it's not heavy to bear. The world's
Mhm.
yoke is so heavy,
Mhm.
and there was so much pressure. I felt that pressure,
Mhm.
and it just sucks the life out of you.
Mhm.
Um, and so, I wanted to be the person that was in someone else's corner because I didn't have that. Like I
Mhm.
said, my siblings were older, so they were doing their own thing, and
Right.
I didn't. I'm sure had I spoken, especially to my sister Lori, she would have come to bat immediately. But
Mhm.
I didn't. I
Mhm.
couldn't. I just couldn't.
Mhm.
Um, so I became a friend to everyone. I was the
Mhm.
listener. I was the friend that was the listener, the
Yep.
encourager, the hugger, the lover of people. And
Uh-huh.
my kids were joking the other day. They were saying, if you were ever kidnapped, you'd be the one to become best friends with your kidnapper, fix all their problems, and walk away with a new
Yeah.
best friend.
Yep, yeah. I could see that, yeah. Oh my goodness.
And I love that about myself. I do, but
Mhm.
that took time. It took time. I spent most of my life hating who I was. I hated my last name because my family was pretty well known and successful in this area, and so all everyone thought my life was so perfect.
Connected to
When
you, yeah.
mhm, and I was falling apart inside. Like I just
Mhm.
it I always felt like I had to put on a face
Mhm.
to protect the sake of my family because of the status. But that was, but no, but I couldn't let anybody in because I
Mm-mm.
couldn't speak
Mm-mm.
my truth. I didn't dare
Right,
speak my truth. So,
right.
um, I was searching for acceptance. I wanted to be wanted. I wanted to be desired and wanted it by someone so badly. So that as I navigated my teen years, that led, and the hormone changes and all that, I was
Mhm.
a mess. And I that led to a pretty promiscuous lifestyle for me as a young teenager, looking for love in all the wrong
Mhm.
places.
Mhm.
My mom
Literally.
actually, literally, my mom actually bought, there was a book titled that back in
Yeah.
the 80s or 90s. And she knew it. And my mom, God bless her, she's an amazing woman, and she was my lifeblood.
Mm,
She always loved and adored me and protected me, and tried to make up for the indifferences that
right, that you
I
were
felt
feeling.
in my life.
Mhm.
And she's my rock and my protector. I just love her to pieces. But
Mhm.
you know, our journey is ours, and it's
Yes.
ours alone.
Yep.
And no matter how much we love our kids, Lori, you and I have talked about
Yep.
this, no matter how
They're
much
gonna
we love our
choose their way. Mhm.
mhm, and we just have to walk along next to
Mhm.
them and pray. Boy, did my
Mhm.
mom pray.
Mhm.
It was her prayers, I know, that protected me through a lot of my years. So, um, but God,
Mhm.
again, sent me another angel when I was 15. My now husband, um, showed up, uh, in a bizarre way. My girlfriend wanted to date him. And so I had never seen him, but I handed him a note from my friend because she wanted him to ask him out. And lo and behold, he didn't date her. So, and so he was at my locker the next day, found out who I was and where I was,
Oh.
and came and we were married. We've been married for Oh, he would kill me. He's so good at dates and stuff.
Oh,
I'm the
no.
terrible one. Let's see, 20. Oh, yeah, 20. This will be 26 years.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he came into my life, and we dated all through high school. He went into the Navy. Um, but when he left, I thought for sure I had found my person, that he was
Mhm.
never gonna leave.
Mhm.
But he did. He went into the Navy. He kept his word, as he told me when we first started dating. He was gonna do that because his
Mhm.
father did it. He felt he had a duty to do it. So when he left, I fell apart because he
Oh,
was my
yeah.
person. I
Yeah.
finally had found someone that wanted me and desired me and wanted
Mhm.
to spend the rest of his life with me. So I fell into a real hard cycle of 3 years of hard drug abuse,
Mm.
which was a very difficult part of my journey, but a
Mhm.
beautiful one all the
Mhm.
same. Because again, I never felt unsafe. I was like, "Hey, it's okay. You've got a gun. I'm your best friend."
Oh my gosh. It's
God
just
was,
like it was right over your head. You're just like, "Okay, no big deal."
"Hey, buddy."
Mhm.
I never saw that. I never felt unsafe. I truly never felt unsafe. I was in some pretty unsafe situations now that I
Mhm.
look back at it.
Mhm.
But God was there. He had his hand on me, and I hope that during those seasons, those people felt his presence,
Mhm.
because I never was unconnected with God. I always we grew up in a church, that or a family that went to church,
Mhm.
and of course, as I got to be older and could make my own decisions, I I would go, once in a while, but I never left God. I always had a relationship with the Lord, and so I hope that carried over. But
Mm.
um, yeah, that was a tough 3 years. So Chad came home from the Navy, and we were friends but not friends. We were
Mm.
together but not together, sort of thing. And he knew he was not someone who was into drugs. Clearly, he has been in the Navy, but he was not happy with my
Mm.
choice. But um, we had remained friends. We were together for the first year of when he
Mhm.
was away, and then we broke up. So anyway, he came home and we reconnected, um, and so I got pregnant with
Mm.
our first daughter,
Mm.
and he said, you know, you got to take care of this. You have to go get help. So I did. I went to rehab, and um, it was another part of my journey where God showed up. I
Mm.
had been a pretty strong crack cocaine addict.
Oof.
So but I was pregnant, so I couldn't have
Mm.
any medication
Oh, to bring
for
you down off
withdrawal.
of it. Yeah.
Yep. And so I never had one bit of withdrawal, never had one symptom.
That's
um,
amazing.
it
Wow.
was amazing. It was truly incredible. I remember the first night in that room screaming into my pillow, "God, you've got to fix this. Like
Mm.
I am so lost, and I have no idea if
Mm.
there even is a light at the end of the tunnel." Because
Right.
obviously, as a drug addict, you try
Yeah,
to
you do. Mhm.
get clean. You're always like, "I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take that exit, because I know if I take that exit, I'm going to end up at that house," or you
Mhm.
know. But it's just when you don't know yourself, and you're searching for something to fill that void.
Mhm.
um, it's nearly impossible to avoid situations. And it's not
Mhm.
drugs for everyone. Some people it's codependency, some people it's food or
Alcohol.
exercise or
Mhm.
alcohol. It's different for everyone,
Mhm.
but there's always a void that someone's trying to fill.
Mhm.
And I think because I had done that for so long and been trying to fill that void, I could see that in people. And I
Mm.
and I feel like that's what makes me who I am. And the gifting that I have is like the empathy and compassion for
Mhm. Mhm.
people who just want to be wanted.
Mm.
That's all I want. They just want
Mhm.
to be connected. And I think that's why we see such great success when people get connected to church or AA or even sports teams. Like they
Mhm.
just want to be connected to something.
Community.
It's so important.
Mhm.
It's so important. Um, so I did. I never looked back after I was in rehab. I was there just for the 28-day typical
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
But I wasn't healed,
Yeah, there's a lot of
you know.
healing that has to go on after that, and that's the part that a lot of people don't take the advantage of doing. They fall
hmm
back, but
hmm
you didn't.
I didn't in that sense, but what I did was I started to control my life.
Okay.
I obviously fell in love with being a
Mhm.
mom. I have
Mhm.
always loved children, so that was easy for me.
Mhm.
But I fell in love with that. But I had to control every single bit of my life. Um, I didn't I didn't enjoy it.
Mm.
I mean, I loved being a mom, but
Right.
I wasn't living in the moment by any means. I was very like living in your masculine, they call that,
Yeah.
right? You can
Yeah.
be in your masculine or your feminine. Well, I spent the next, let's see, she is 25. So that I spent the next 20 years living in that because,
Mm.
Chad and I, like I said, we're together, but not really together. So we had been apart for 3 years and a lot had happened
A
for
lot had happened.
each other.
Yeah.
And so, but my father, God bless him, he's passed on now. So, but he came to Chad when he found out, that I was pregnant and said, you will do the right thing and you will marry her. And I'm here to tell you that that's not always the right thing.
No, it's
It's
not.
not. It's
Mm-mm.
not the reason to get married. And
Right.
neither of us really wanted to, but we did.
Mm.
And then I'm telling you, God will bless God will bless you in the strangest of ways. It was hard. It was a hard first 7 years were hard. Um, we had to get to know each other again. We had to fall in love again.
Mhm.
And God showed up in some really amazing ways. And it was the most uncomfortable parts of our lives in those
Mm.
first 7 years. We had no money, and I'd never known a situation where I had no money. I'd never been in that situation. He didn't grow up quite the same way I did, so he was used to kind of like budgeting. I not.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself was a
What's hard? Mm.
took some getting used to. I
Mm.
kept saying, I think I spent too much money. The bank account's
Uh-oh.
empty. How do we fix that?
Oh, dear.
You know?
Oops.
So it was difficult. It was just hard. But that was again part of our journey. And we started going back to church, raised our kids in church, and I always taught our youth group that with it's like a triangle. You guys are here, right? Husband and wife, and God is up here. And this, if you just continue your walk and continue growing that relationship with God, you're gonna get closer. There's just no way
Mhm.
you can't,
Mhm.
because the closer you get to God, the closer you're going to get to each other.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what happened. We just grew in our faith. My husband is a gifted musician, so he
Mhm.
started to take part in the worship team, and we both loved kids, so we started a youth group. And I think my goal for that was again to let them have a place where their voice could be heard.
Right.
Um, and I'll tell you, Laura, that was the biggest blessing.
Mm. They taught you a lot of things, I'm sure.
Oh Lord, did they ever? Did
Yeah.
they ever? But it was a beautiful 15 years of
Mm.
raising them, raising
Yeah.
them up,
Yeah.
and just listening to them, and being in their corner.
Mhm.
It was a gift for sure that is
Mm.
priceless to me. Um, and it allowed me to start, I think, for the first time, looking at how I could let go of some of the hurt that
Mm.
I was still carrying, because
Yeah.
like I said, I hadn't touched drugs ever again, but I still carried all that hurt. I still wanted
Mhm.
to be wanted.
Right.
And I think you wrestle with that until you can
Mhm.
start to fall in love with who you are.
Mhm.
Um, and so as I'm trying to help these kids fall in love with who they are, that started the journey for me.
Mm.
But it was a long one. And just, I think within the last 6 or 7 years, I got connected to a business I never thought I would have the pleasure of
Mhm.
being connected to.
Mhm.
And it has caused me to, in order to be a leader and not be the type of leader that I was raised with, my dad's employees used to call him the seagull,
Oh,
that he would fly in and crap all over and fly out. That was how he
yeah.
managed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I didn't
We
want to
don't wanna
be
do
that. But
that. Yeah.
mm-mm, mm-mm. So I had to really dig into who I was, who I wanted to be.
Mhm.
And that's when I started to learn that the journey is really about, okay, now it's time to unbecome. And one of my what limiting beliefs were given to me and placed on my
Mm.
shoulders that were never mine to carry.
Mhm.
I was never meant to carry. I don't think any of us are meant to carry our parents' burdens,
Right.
and our children aren't meant to carry ours.
Right.
And inevitably that's going to happen in some way, shape, or form because we're all broken people.
Right.
um, but if I in some way can minimize that or at least have conversation, one thing I always have done with my kids is have conversation.
That's huge.
um, it is, and I never wanted them to feel like their voice couldn't be heard. um, we talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Most recently, they were all home with us for various reasons and living here
Mhm.
for a year. And I hired my life coach to come in and coach us on how to navigate that season of life because I wanted it to be a blessing. I didn't want, here's all of these adults trying to live together plus a new
Mhm.
baby.
Mhm.
Um, we had to figure out how to navigate that and navigate it well. And that was I think that we have to always be open to to the to the realization that there's things that need to be spoken. There's hurts
Mhm.
that need to be healed. And no matter how perfect of a parent we think we are, or how well we've tried to do, there's still things that our kids need to unpack.
Right.
And the best gift we can give our kids is to let them do that,
Mhm.
and to own the parts that we need to own. Let them take personal accountability for their parts. But I want my house to be a place of peace. I want it to be a safe place.
Mhm.
And that was always my goal. We were always the house that the kids came to because
That's good.
they could they
Yeah.
could one, it gave us the home play advantage, right? We knew where our
Yes.
kids were.
Yes, exactly. I love that part. I did that too. I
Hmm.
always like, "Oh, we'll just have them come here. We'll just do something here." So we
Hmm.
always made it fun here because in that way I had everybody here and we got to know them, and I just felt more comfortable that way
And they
in
got a
doing
second
that.
mom.
Yeah. Yeah. They knew they had
Right.
somebody they could come talk to and hang out with, and yeah, it was always fun.
And they need that.
They do.
I think kids are desperate for that. And
Mhm.
so yeah, that's I think, as far as where I'm at now, I'm building my own business and I'm becoming a leader that I can be proud of.
Mhm.
And I'm falling in love with myself. And I
Mhm.
think that is the only way we can ever truly get to a place where we know we're wanted,
Yes.
because God wants us. He wanted us
Right.
from the very beginning. He knit us
Mhm.
together in our mother's womb and gave us a purpose on earth for because he
Right.
loved us, not because
Right.
he was obligated to.
Right.
Or
Right.
he we are meant to be here, and
Mhm.
we are meant to live out the greatest things about us. And sometimes the greatest things about us are squashed from our environment we grew
Mhm.
up in because
Mhm.
it was misunderstood or it was
Mhm.
scary to the people around us. And I'm glad it's your dogs and not mine.
Yeah, now mine decide to bark. Come here, Bella. Come here. I knew that was gonna happen because she heard them, and now they're gonna decide to go crazy. Oh, sorry about
Mm,
that, but yes,
it's our
we're
journey.
just
It's all part of the
yes,
journey.
it's part of the journey. Life, here we are. Instead of kids, I have the dogs. that come in and make the noise. I just kept her in here because she's usually quiet and will come lay down and not make any problems. But they're all barking
Oh,
out there, so golly.
she heard him.
But
That's okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
okay.
and I don't know why, but our thing went off and came back on, so hopefully it's still working. It says it is, but we'll see how that is. Internet, the joys of internet.
Hmm.
It popped on and off. I don't know if it was your end or my end, but it says it's recording.
Yeah,
Hold on.
I see it. Yeah.
That's enough. Okay. Oh, bless him. He can take
I
all that out, hopefully.
Well, you know what? I I will say, I'll say it again. I think that, the greatness within us, the journey within us is planted at a very young age. And that I do think that as parents, we try so hard to raise the best kids we can. And I
Mhm.
know that that's what
Mhm.
my parents did,
Mhm.
but we have to be so careful not to squash um, the what's inside of our kids.
Right.
We have to be uncomfortable, and that is my word of the
Right.
year, is uncomfortable. And
Yes,
I'm
yes.
finding that we really need, just like your dog barking, that might be uncomfortable,
Making
but
me uncomfortable.
it's making you uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
that's okay, because um life is uncomfortable. Our
Mhm.
journey is uncomfortable, and I don't think that we were ever meant for it not to be. I think when we get
Right.
comfortable, that's an unsafe place,
Right.
because we're not growing there, and it's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. And I think that the realness of you pursuing your passion and doing this podcast with or without your dogs in the
Right.
room is
Right.
beautiful.
Right.
And it's real, and it's life, and it's the journey, and that's
Yeah.
what we're here to share,
Yes,
right?
we are. Yes, we are. I mean, I can get all nuts and crazy trying to keep everything so quiet, but it just isn't going to happen. And especially when I get back in that RV, I mean, I've got how much space? Not much to get on there and do these things. But if I don't keep staying uncomfortable and moving forward and doing them, then what happens? I'm going to shut down. It's not going to happen. So I'm going to stay uncomfortable. I like that. I love that you brought that out, because uncomfortable is the way. And I was thinking about something as you were talking about as a child, at such a young age, at 13, and when things happen to you, and how it continued through projection of your life, is that we seem to do these things as a punishment because we took a wrong path in doing something, or, so we just keep punishing ourselves for doing that. And you held it for so many years as a punishment. You kept it down because you didn't want
Hmm.
anybody to know. You didn't want to bring shame to anyone, much less yourself, and you didn't want people to know that you'd gone through such things. And it's a punishment. And when we release that, like you did, you probably felt the best you've ever felt when you let that go and told your husband what had happened to you and all that you went through. He still loved you. He still loves
Mm,
you even more because
yeah.
you were honest with him. It took time, to get there, and it wasn't going to mess your marriage up. That was another thing. People think they got to keep all these secrets because, it'll mess the marriage up. No, you need to be honest. You need to tell the things. And there's things that I've had to work through that I would not share, and I've been working through that and sharing more of things that happened to me when I was younger, and I didn't want people to know because I didn't want to hurt that family or hurt my family, of knowing something that I've carried for many, many years. So
Hmm.
I understand that totally about becoming uncomfortable.
And the other thing is, I always felt, well, it's my secret to keep. If I tell
Right,
someone, then it's their secret to keep, right?
right, right.
Type of thing, and just not wanting to have the burden on that person.
Anybody else? Yeah.
But I will tell you, you are exactly right. You cannot hold on to those things in a marriage, because there were so many things, and the way that came out, and I wasn't going to share this. I didn't even think about sharing this part, but I feel like maybe God's leading us to. The way that came out is, our intimate relationship was struggling because
Mm-hmm.
I had experienced some
Mm-hmm.
horrible things,
Mm-hmm.
and um, so it caused me to see things differently in an intimate setting than someone else might have. And so I had to share that, like, this is why XYZ,
Mhm.
or why
Mhm.
I'm acting like this way, or,
Mhm.
um, I had to share it because it was time. And I think that God will tell us when it's time. He'll give us
Right.
he'll give us our rock. I mean, Chad is
Mhm.
my rock. He
Mhm.
will give us those people who can bear that burden with you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it has been a beautiful blessing for both of us
Mhm.
because it opened
Mhm.
up conversation. It helped us to be able to improve our intimacy in
Oh,
a way
yeah.
that was much needed.
Because you were
Um,
free of that, and it wasn't
mhm,
necessarily like now it's all piled on him. You were free
right.
of that so that you could grow in the direction God wanted you to grow,
Yep.
by releasing
Yeah.
that, and I think that's beautiful that it happened at the time that it did. It was his timing, because you
Hmm.
probably would have kept holding it in because it was easier just to keep holding it in. We think it's easier. It's not.
And it's
I mean,
all we know, right? Up to that
right,
point, it's all we know. It's
right.
it's I love, I think it's Casting Crowns, their song, it's a slow fade,
Yeah.
because it's just like illness. It's like you become it becomes a part of your life. It's a slow fade. It creeps
Mhm.
in slowly, and it just you start to like work around this thing that is poison. You just start to put walls and things around it, protection modes, and it just becomes this thing over time, that just is part of you
Mhm.
until you realize it does not belong there, and it was
Mhm.
never meant for you to carry in
Well,
the
it's
first
holding you
place.
back. It's holding you back from his greatness
Mhm.
and what he wants you
Mhm.
to continue to do and grow in, and you've got that little piece that's keeping you back from, or a big piece, actually, it could be a huge rock, that's holding you back. I had a guest the other day that shared about that. You go along in life and you're picking up stones. "Oh, that's a
Mm.
beautiful rock," and you stick it in your pocket, and you're picking up another rock. Oh, you put it, and for long, you're weighed down. So you
Mhm.
slowly start trying to put, like you say, undo, pull them out, and get rid of and unpeel, like she said. And some of them are beautiful at the moment, you think, but it was hindering you from what your journey was supposed to be, and leading you further in your journey. So I thought that was pretty neat how she shared that. And I could see that, we do. We weigh ourselves down so many times
We do,
with
and then we pick the
unnecessary.
rocks back up.
Yeah.
We keep
Yeah.
picking them back up and
Yeah.
picking them back up.
Another thing
Um,
that was said too is put it in, instead of at his feet, put it in his hands.
mm,
Jesus's hands, because
yeah.
he's gonna do the work to take care of it. And I love that analogy because we all say, "Take it to his feet, lay it down at his feet." And I thought, "No, I'm gonna start putting it in his hands. I'm gonna let him take it because I'm so bad about taking it back." Think, "Okay, well, it's not, you haven't done it fast enough. I need this quicker." So, but putting it in his hands, he's gonna do the work. He's gonna take care of it.
He is, and I have to share how wonderful God is. Just this morning, for the first time, been really getting into meditation and manifestation and
Mhm.
just the releasing, right? And
Mhm.
this morning, for the first time, I was like, you know what? I just feel like I want to do like a guided, like connecting with God meditation. So
Mhm.
I searched
Mhm.
for one, and that's exactly what they said. Put it in His hands.
Oh, I love it.
So,
I
dogs
love
barking or
that.
not, we were meant to connect
I
today.
love
God,
that. I love
yes.
that because that is made it's changed my thoughts 100% on that, and
Mhm.
putting it in his hands. I mean,
And
there's
when you
nothing
do
wrong with
that,
putting it at his feet, but
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you do that, I'm sorry.
I just when I think in my mind about laying something at his feet, I'm doing like this, right?
Mhm.
I'm like laying it at his feet, but I can pick it back up so easily.
Mhm.
But when I picture his hands open and I picture like putting it in his hands,
Mhm.
it leaves my hands open
Mhm.
to receive his goodness.
Mhm.
Like he
Mhm.
takes that, but my hands are still open and then I
Yeah.
can receive.
Yes.
Because when we're hanging on so tight, we can't receive. We're not
Mm-mm.
open. And
Mm-mm.
sometimes our burdens and our the things that we are bearing, like the secrets or
Mhm.
limiting beliefs, like we're hanging on to them so tight, even though we know they don't belong to us.
Mhm.
Um, and and we can't be open for God to pour in the new stuff He
Mm-mm.
wants to give us.
Mm-mm.
Our journey's not over. Like your journey's
Right.
just because I'm 50 doesn't mean my journey's over. I have
No.
so many things that I'm open for. Like I'm
Yes.
here. I'm ready to
Yes.
receive so many things that I want to I'm just so grateful to be here today to share this because
Mhm.
I hope it reaches people young
Yes,
so that
yes,
they can
yes,
do
that's the
this
whole thing.
young.
All right, listen to us older girls, we can tell you. We've been there, now we want you to learn not to go there. Figure
Yes,
out ways to do your thing, but do it differently with and I think too is an important thing, that you shared too, and some of my other guests have shared, is that the foundation was laid at an early age with God.
yeah.
And so
Hmm.
we know that he never leaves us, and that, even through all the things where you may have left him, yeah, I know you said you stay connected, but you
We
were
walk
not
away.
walking the walk with him.
Mm-mm.
You knew he was there somewhere, but you were still choosing the path you chose, but he never left you. And he saved
Mm-mm.
you from many things of where you could not be here today if he had not been a part of your life. You would be the drugs. I mean, you're blessed to be alive because they're
Yeah,
dangerous, and the places like you were putting yourself was dangerous. And I know one time you told me about you were going into a place where you were ready just to let it all be done. You didn't care if you walked back out of there, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and that's you were given the sense enough to get yourself back out of there though, and that
I
was because
was
God.
because yeah,
Yeah,
God
yeah,
through his through two little children. Yes, I was
mm-hmm,
given the sense to get out
yeah,
of there,
yeah,
um and you know, um oftentimes even in our brokenness, like you said, I mean,
mm-hmm,
it does not matter how broken you
mm-mm,
are.
mm-mm,
There's nowhere God won't go. There's
mm-mm.
nowhere he won't go to bring you back. There's just
Mhm.
nowhere. There's just nothing. There just isn't. He knows all, is all, and loves all. And
Mhm.
there's just don't ever. I don't want. I hope no one ever feels like they are so far gone that God can't reach them
Right,
because
right.
it's so not
And
true.
you've gotta be ready to surrender all. You can't just
Hmm.
surrender parts of your life, and I think that might have been all of us have gone through that in our life where, "Well, you can have this part, but I'm gonna handle this part over here." And you've
Yeah.
got to be ready to surrender all, because he wants all
Hmm.
of you. He doesn't want the
Hmm.
pieces of you, he wants all of you because he created you. So, he wants
Yeah.
all of you. Well, Jessica, I appreciate you coming on today and sharing live. I
So.
hope everything comes together. I'm gonna hit the end recording in a minute, and let's see how it all comes together. But, your story is beautiful. God is great. He loves
Hmm.
us. He loves you. He wants
Hmm.
us to live an abundance of a life. He has so much for us, and it makes me excited. And like you said, 61. I'm 61, and I know there's still many things. Like I'm Lord here. I'm so ready to serve and do. And 26 years married tomorrow. So I mean, life is so
Happy
beautiful. Yes,
anniversary.
yes, I'm so excited. But, and it's a God thing and how he led me to where I've got what I have in life today too, and never thought I was worthy of. So God
Oh,
is good. God is good. Let me
he
hit
is.
this. Hang on.